When my golden brother demanded a position in my company, my mom backed him up and said he's a natural leader, not like you. So I taught them a lesson they'll never forget. I started my logistics company when I was 24 with a used van and one contract. Nobody in my family helped. My brother Kevin was in college at the time, paid for entirely by our parents. Business degree, nice apartment near campus, new car for his 21st birthday. I got nothing. When I asked for help buying tires for the van, Mom said, "We can't fund your little hobby. Kevin's education comes first." Dad agreed. "You chose this path. Kevin's investing in his future." I figured it out on my own. Took 5 years, but I built the company to 30 employees, a warehouse, and contracts with 6 regional distributors. I didn't talk to my family about it much. They never asked. Not once did Mom or Dad visit the warehouse, ask about the business, or say anything close to congratulations. When I hired my 10th employee, I called Dad to share the news. He said, "That's nice," and spent the next 20 minutes telling me about Kevin's internship at a marketing firm. Kevin graduated and got a marketing job at a mid-level firm. He hated it. He complained at every family dinner about how his boss was stupid, his coworkers were lazy, and the pay wasn't good enough. Mom would nod and tell him he was meant for bigger things. Dad would say the company didn't deserve him. After 8 months, Kevin quit. Didn't have another job lined up. He just walked out one day because someone criticized his pitch in a meeting. He sat at home for 4 months doing nothing. Mom paid his rent. Dad covered his car payment. They told people he was figuring out his next move. Meanwhile, Kevin spent his days sleeping until noon and going out with friends at night. He never once applied for another job. Not one. Then he found out how well my company was doing. I made the mistake of mentioning a new contract at Thanksgiving. Kevin's eyes lit up. 2 days later, he called me. "I want in. Give me a management role. I'll run your operations team." I told him I already had an operations manager who had been with me since year 1. Kevin laughed. "Come on, I have a business degree. Your guy probably doesn't even have a diploma." I told him no. He called Mom. That Sunday, I walked into my parents' house for dinner, and it was an ambush. Mom, Dad, and Kevin sitting at the table with printed copies of my company's public filings. Mom started first. "Your brother has a degree in business. You didn't even finish community college. He's a natural leader, not like you. You should be grateful he even wants to join your company." I put my fork down. Kevin jumped in. "I'm not asking for a favor. I'm telling you this makes sense. I'll bring structure. You run things like it's still a one-man operation." Dad nodded. "He's right. You need someone with real education running things. Kevin could take this to the next level." I asked Kevin what he knew about freight routing. He blinked. I asked him what a bill of lading was. He stared. I asked him how many trucks I operated, how many routes we ran, what our average delivery window was. He didn't know a single answer. Mom waved her hand. "He'll learn on the job. That's what training is for." I said no again and left. Mom called me the next morning and said if I didn't give Kevin a leadership role, she would tell the entire family I was selfish and ungrateful. I told her to go ahead. She did. Within a week, my aunts, uncles, and cousins were calling me. "Why won't you help your brother? He's struggling. You have a whole company." I stopped answering. 2 weeks later, Kevin showed up at my warehouse unannounced. He walked in wearing a polo shirt and khakis like it was his first day. He told my operations manager, Theo, that he was the new head of logistics and that things were going to change. Theo called me. I drove over. I found Kevin in my office, sitting in my chair, looking through papers on my desk. He'd moved a stack of shipping invoices to the side and had his feet up on the corner. 2 of my drivers were standing in the hallway looking confused. He'd already introduced himself to them as the new VP of operations. He told the receptionist he was my brother and she let him through. I told him to stand up. He crossed his arms. "Mom's right. You can't handle this alone. Just let me help." I said, "You're in my building without permission, sitting at my desk, and you've never worked a single day in this industry. Get out." He didn't move. He leaned back in the chair and said, "Make me." I told the receptionist to call the police for an unauthorized person on the premises. Kevin's face dropped. "You're going to call the cops on your own brother?" I told him I was calling them on someone who walked into a private business, lied to get past the front desk, and tried to take over an office that wasn't his. He left before they arrived, slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. 2 of my drivers asked me later if everything was okay. I told them it was handled. Theo shook his head and said, "That's your brother?" I said, "Unfortunately." Mom called me that night crying. "You've destroyed this family. Your brother just wanted a chance and you treated him like a criminal." Dad sent a text. "Don't bother coming to Christmas. You're not welcome until you make this right." I didn't respond to either of them. I gave Theo a raise. We're up to 46 employees now. Kevin still hasn't called.